Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. Today we're going to talk about these three blades from Dawson Knives and the sheaths that I built for them. These all belong to a gentleman named Joshua out in Colorado. He sent them to me, and as far as I can recall, these are the first Dawson knives that I've ever had in the shop. And I'm really excited about it. These are really nice blades, and I hope to do some more with Dawson's stuff in the near future because I'm just I get kind of excited when nice blades come through the shop, and especially things that I've never worked with before. It's just kind of fun, and it gives me a little bit of a sample of like what I might want to buy and carry in the future. So I'm very impressed with Dawson, and I'll probably be buying something in the near future as well. So all right, looking at these sheaths, there is something about them that you probably haven't seen a ton of, but maybe it's getting at least a little bit more popular lately, and that is fabric bonded to the Kydex. This is something that I like to do. It's kind of my niche, is bonding materials to the Kydex, typically leather or maybe alligator skin is one of the more popular ones. Fabric I've done for a while now, but I don't get a lot of requests for it. This one turned into an absolute fiasco for me, and it was a super challenging project. Now, the reason why this ended up being most challenging is because the color of the fabric is white, but it's actually a little bit translucent if you, it's slightly translucent. So unlike the darker colors where you just can't see through them, this revealed the color of the adhesive that I typically use. The color of that adhesive is basically yellow, so it made the snow look, well, you can imagine. So when I say snow, I mean the fabric, obviously designed to be kind of a winter camouflage. So yeah, this multicam alpine is the pattern that you're looking at here in the fabric. So I had to find a different adhesive, but no other adhesive I used seemed to bond properly without a whole lot of fuss, and that includes using super glue. So ultimately what I landed on was super glue from Gorilla, and you guys know how instantaneous the fusion is. These are like rapid fuse glues where you could put a droplet on your thumb, put your other thumb on it immediately, and they are bonded together. You're going to be in a little bit of pain when you peel those suckers apart. They don't require much dry time. Well, for some reason, with the two materials here, the fabric and the Kydex, I was finding that I actually had to spread the glue onto the fabric. So I basically just used, put a glove on, squeezed a bunch of glue onto the back of it, just in a random, kind of zigzag. And then I would thin it out so it would coat the entire surface of the fabric with a really thin layer of the stuff. And then I'd have to let it sit for like 10 minutes. No joke, 10 minutes. And then combine them. And this was only after several different experimental rounds before I figured it out. But I'm glad I got it, and I'm glad these all came out with a good bond. However, the buoy here, the larger knife, it's got 3 layers of fabric on it because once I added the fabric and the lighting was kind of crappy when I did it, I didn't notice that there was a yellow hue to the sheath until I actually brought it out into better lighting, realized what the issue was, and by then there was a permanent bond between the fabric and the Kydex. So the best option I had was to add more fabric over the top of it or restart the build, and I didn't want to restart it. So I added a second layer that still let a little bit of yellow shine through, so there was a third layer added onto each side of this thing. So it was a challenge for sure. Took a lot of time, but I'm very happy with the end results, and it just looks really nice. Now the Kydex on all of these is extra thick. Joshua asked me if I could put on the thickest possible Kydex that I had. Well, white Kydex doesn't come in the thicknesses that I would choose when somebody requests something that's extra robust. So what I did was I fused multiple layers of 0.093 white Kydex together. So what you're looking at here looks like 2 layers. It's actually 4. Each of these sides is 2 layers of 0.093 inch Kydex welded together, essentially. It's just a matter of heating and using enough pressure, and you can get them to stick together seamlessly. So as far as it goes, it's a little bit thinner than, so 0.093 times 2 would be 0.186, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But it's not that thick because there is compression that occurs. So I'd say each side of this is probably about 0.15 inches thick, somewhere in that ballpark. It's thicker than 1/8 of an inch for sure. and it makes this an extremely rugged sheath. I'm very, very pleased with the robustness and durability of this build. All right, so we got extra thick Kydex on all 3 items. Both of these systems carry on MOLLE locks. Now, the reason why you're seeing large over here and small over here is because the large ones really go well with this kind of inline design where I can bolt all corners of this and have the, there's no spot on this where the plate really feels like it's loose and can flex. Whereas with an axe design, you're going to have, this corner in particular down here. If I were to use large MOLLE locks and have it this far away, it becomes a torque bar on this plate, and it's just not a practical thing. It's a weak spot, and I don't like to leave those kinds of things, those kind of vulnerabilities in my work. So I went with the short ones, but to compensate for the stability issue of having shorter stuff, I widened them out. The spacing on MOLLE webbing from center to center of each loop is 1.5 inches. So as you see it here, we've got 1.5 inches. As you see it here, we've got 3 inches. So both of these should be pretty stable. You'll get through an extra loop with the large ones, but you go wider with the small ones, and it should compensate nicely. Now over here on the axe, we have a retention strap. I don't believe Joshua asked for it, but I thought I should put it on there because the worst case scenario is that he won't like it and he can remove it in the future if he likes. This does have exceptional retention. I'm going to go ahead and just give a shake test real quick. And I'm not holding any part of the sheath closed or anything like that to simulate extra retention. So I'm shaking it pretty hard. You're hearing some rattling with the strap here, but the actual hatchet inside this scabbard is not moving around. It's really secure in there. And at the same time, drawing isn't particularly difficult either. The retention on this wow. The retention on this is on the actual metal because there's no handle to do that with like there is with the knives. There is a handle on this, but I'm not molding the sheath all the way down here. Obviously, that'd be a very bad idea. So that's the big difference, I think, between the knives and the axe. And in general, with axe scabbards, you do want to get the retention on the metal, the head of it as well, because it's the heaviest part of this item. So the reason I added the retention strap is because where you aren't molding onto a handle and where the handle is so long, it really could be a vulnerability. If you were to take the right kind of hit on the backside of that handle, it could at least pop the spike free, if not completely dislodge your axe from its sheath. And I believe this setup is something that he plans on carrying while on skis or while snowshoeing or doing winter activities. And I don't think it would be great to experience having this thing pop free or even expose the spike unexpectedly. So that's really the motivation of adding that strap there. It's really nice and secure. And while that's on there, you are not getting this thing out of there. It's really, really tight. If you do want to remove it, you can just pop that open, Phillips head screw. You can just take that out real easy. And the female part of the screw is embedded into the sheath behind here. So it's not too terribly difficult to do. With the piggyback system over here, got the small sheath. It's crisp, but it is a very difficult draw with, I'd say both of these have all 3 of these have really tight retention because of the extra thick Kydex. It just doesn't want to flex open for you as easily as a thinner layer would. However, with this, if you use your thumb on the ramp as well as use your arm strength, it really isn't that difficult to pull that out of there. Same thing goes for the larger one. I actually like the draw on this better, and I think the reason why it feels smoother is because the weight of the knife lends itself a little bit better to drawing like so. There's a ferro rod loop on here for a 1/2 inch ferro rod. He has the Fire Rod XL. So I'm also going to send him a length of shock cord, but just to give you an idea, it's a nice snug holder. As you use your rod, you're going to whittle it down. It's going to become smaller, and therefore the holder will feel looser, and you'll need that shock cord to retain it after that point. All right, so I think that's pretty much everything on these. Actually, the MOLLE plates are kind of interesting. So the MOLLE plate on the axe is asymmetrical, obviously because of the shape of this whole thing. It is molded, and therefore I made a second plate mirror image in case you ever want to switch sides, Joshua. You've got this plate. You'll just need to take the hardware out of this one and repurpose it to the other one. With this plate, this was an interesting one. Because of the spacing of MOLLE webbing, you either have to go with 1.5 or 3 inches. Well, if I went with 3 inches, the spacing of the eyelets on this sheath would have to be significantly wider, at least a 1/2 inch wider, and you'd wind up with what I feel is just kind of like a cumbersome, you'd go about 1 inch wider total on your footprint for the sheath itself. I don't really like to do that. It just looks a little bit ungainly, and I just don't like it. So what I opted to go for here instead was to put a floated plate on it so that I could get the 1.5 inch spacing. Obviously the blade of the buoy is too wide to put your eyelets at 1.5 inches and mount MOLLE locks to the eyelets themselves, and it would be a bad idea to mount the MOLLE locks to the eyelets if the eyelets are not spaced at multiples of 1.5. So with this plate, it makes it easy to put the mollies on there. However, what I didn't think about until I was getting ready to get the plate on is that the hardware, the spacing actually across the blade is a little bit too narrow for the 1.5 inch spacing of the MOLLE locks, and the hardware would actually interfere with the recess for the MOLLE hardware. So what I did was, using my new CNC machine, I designed this vacuum mold, and it takes these little bites out of the recess for the hardware on the mollies and allows you to put some screws down through. So you can best see it here at the corner where the Kydex is formed with a little bit of a half round. You can see those divots there, and it just allows the head of the threaded post to sit into the piece flush with the piece rather than being tilted or interfering at all with the recess. So it's just a nice little workaround that I figured out while I was in the middle of this build. So speaking of CNC stuff, it is really opening the doors to what I can do, what I can offer you guys. And the most recent thing that I'm working on with CNC is producing some really nice updated chest harness systems. And it's going to involve some CNC cut Kydex plates for your chest and back. And I'll be offering those on my website store pretty soon in at least 3, maybe 4 sizes. But those are going to be also an optional custom item where if you guys want to alter anything about that, you can definitely link up with me, and I'd be happy to redesign, change shape, change size, alter slot location, hole location, colors, whatever you need. So it's a really exciting thing. But if you happen to be knowledgeable about CNC and what the capabilities are or how that might relate to this industry, then I would love to talk to you, and I'd love to get your ideas. You guys have come up with some of the coolest ideas as a group that I've ever heard, and it's really driven me to create the things that I've created on the channel. Only a couple of my so-called inventions are things that came out of my brain. Most of the things that I've come up with and been the first in the Kydex world to do have actually been just requests from customers. So I really appreciate you guys' thoughts, your ingenuity, your dare to dream kind of attitude. And most people maybe don't know what is or isn't possible with Kydex, but if you think you want something, always err on the side of asking me about it, and I'll definitely do my best to puzzle out a solution. But yeah, especially those of you who are familiar with CNC or machinists yourselves and know the capabilities of that kind of technology, if you can think of an application to further improve anything that I'm doing now, or completely reinvent or recreate or create new stuff, I'm all about it. So yeah, definitely hit me up and let's talk about that. And if you just want to nerd out on CNC, I'm there for you. I'm really getting into it. I'm pretty new at it all still, but I'm learning fast and really enjoying the journey. So, all right, guys, well, that's all I've got for you. But let me know what you think of Dawson knives, specifically these 3. I apologize, I don't recall the models of any of these, but I got to say I'm very impressed with them. Let me know what you think of these and other Dawson knives that you've used. Let me know what you think of the Kydex, the fabric, the workarounds that I found with the MOLLE plate, all that good stuff. I'll look forward to those in the comment section down below. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and stick around for the next video. God bless.